And again, it's not us saying so, John Hyman. That is a bulletin released to all law enforcement earlier this week that there is, until the end of April, a persistent threat of domestic extremism, domestic terrorism carried out in the ideology and around this belief that the election was fraudulent, that the COVID restrictions are unnecessary. All of those ideologies pushed by Donald Trump. But my question for you is around incitement. We had a policy, and it was very controversial. It was carried out under the Bush years and under the Obama years, of attacking terrorism at its root, of going after and killing, and in the case of Anwar al-Awlaki, an American, a Yemeni American, with a drone strike for the crime of inciting violence, inciting terrorism. Mitch McConnell was in the Senate then. He was in the Senate after 9/11 too. How does Mitch McConnell, who understands that the way you root out terrorism is to take on, in the case of Islamic terrorism, kill those who incite it, how does he not vote to convict someone that he said on the floor of the Senate incited an insurrection?
Wow. Just when you think things can't get any crazier, here we are today with MSNBC saying that the best thing to stop the incitement of violence is to call for the incitement of violence, specifically drone bombing anyone who doesn't like the lockdowns. Yeah. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Rudowski of We Are Change.org. A lot of very important issues to get into today, especially with the hyperbolic and extremely dangerous language on MSNBC. That, along with an extremely eye-opening article by Time magazine about a secret, powerful, well-funded cabal that was involved in the elections. So yeah, just another wild and crazy news day to get into, which, to be honest, I'm even shocked to see the former Bush-Cheney campaign spokesperson for the White House, Nicolle Wallace, quite nonchalantly just talking about the extrajudicial assassination of American citizens without a judge, jury, or court. All, of course, for the horrible crimes of not believing them. Now, to say that this is sick and demented thinking is definitely an understatement. And as Glenn Greenwald points out, saying, quote, neocons like Bill Kristol, David Frum, Bush-Cheney operatives like Nicolle Wallace, and Rick Wilson haven't changed in the slightest. They believe everything they believed back when they were hated by liberals. They're beloved by liberals now because U.S. liberalism has changed. And as another user puts it, quote, imagine getting drone striked at Arby's. The fact that we're even discussing this today shows you how absolutely absurd political discourse has gone, where literally MSNBC compares people who don't like lockdowns to individuals like Anwar al-Awlaki, the radical cleric YouTuber who was previously invited to the White House and then was assassinated in a secret drone program when he was still an American citizen and never had his day in court. And now this is the same equivalent from individuals that don't like lockdowns, which again isn't really a controversial view, since there's even many scientists, medical professionals, and studies done showing that lockdowns actually have an adverse effect on cities and states in America. As of course, even Matt Agorist pointed out that the levels of daily deaths from the conholio sickness compared to Kohler, Florida, and Imperial, California is staggering. Of course, highlighting this with, of course, the start of the mask mandate that happened in Imperial, California, and showing the number of deaths skyrocketing up and down compared to, of course, Collier, Florida, which dealt with this sickness a lot better than they did. And in Florida, there's no mandatory mask mandates that will fine or jail people for not wearing masks. The reason Matt Agorist brought up Collier, Florida is specifically because this was the latest target of NBC News Today with their attack on a supermarket in that city, Collier, Florida, where people weren't wearing masks. This, of course, was outrage, front page news, headlines, sensationalistic, garbage reactions that, of course, totally obfuscate any data, any science, any logical form of thinking, just trying to use emotional manipulation in order to shame and attack nice ladies who chose not to wear masks. This is their lead headline story. And if you don't believe in their agenda and their narratives and their talking points, MSNBC wants to take you out in a drone program that, by the way, had over 90% of innocent people killed. According to documents from special operations campaigns that were run in Afghanistan, nearly 90% of people killed in drone strikes in Afghanistan were not the intended targets. And this is the program Nicolle Wallace wants to bring back because people aren't believing their nonsense anymore. And of course, it's not just your assassination that they're calling for. They're also calling for, of course, censorship, which has been matched by many prominent voices who are speaking out against this to be completely silenced by the big tech oligarchs who are more than happy to get power that, of course, the mainstream media is begging them to have to address this issue. And now, there's even some news organizations going as far as to call for the removal of Fox News from cable television. Yes, Move On, along with CNN, are launching a targeted attack on major cable providers trying to take out their competition, of course, all being done in the name of protecting democracy and freedom and the sanctity of our government, which also, by in hand, tremendously is going to help them out after the recent ratings drop-off that has happened in primetime cable news shows, which shows CNN has lost nearly half of their viewers since, of course, Joe Biden took the presidency. Now, if you remember, we've been telling you, when Joe Biden takes office, there's going to be a bloodbath in the news media business, and that's exactly what we're seeing right now, with CNN losing 43 to 44.9% of its viewers from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Even Fox News lost nearly 6% of their viewers during Sean Hannity's broadcast, and MSNBC lost nearly 20%. As, of course, the only person to do well and actually increase their ratings and their viewership is Tucker Carlson, that was able to get 0.13% more viewers than he typically had. Way more than CNN had, that's losing followers and viewers hand over fist. And in my own personal opinion, this is why really they want to take down Fox News, because wrong think is totally unacceptable to them, and it exposes the larger narratives that they're pushing for the interests of the billionaire class. Also, very interestingly, cases in the United States last week dropped 44%. Now they're up to 50%. The cases and infections keep dropping dramatically in the United States, by the way. We're seeing a lot of this in foreign media coverage like the Daily Mail. Not a lot in the American press, which is why I'm bringing it up here again on this independent media channel. Since, of course, they're trying to centralize information as much as they can because they know it's the only way that they could control people. This is why they called for censorship of online platforms, and that's happened. They called for censorship of prominent individuals. That has happened. They called for censorship of independent media. By and large, that has happened in incredible levels. They're calling to end Fox News from cable TV. They previously banned the New York Post, another mainstream media publication, from publishing information that was actually found out to be accurate during an election. And now, if it's not MSNBC dreaming about drone striking you for wrongthink, it's NPR interviewing a CIA counterinsurgency officer who, even without rebuttal, was able to talk about how we need to use terrorist counterinsurgency tactics on American homeland against the American people for wrong political think. The same ones that they, of course, used in Afghanistan and Iraq, that, of course, failed miserably. And when you look at the record of the CIA, what are they going to do? Finance the terrorists, drone bomb some weddings, and hell, if MSNBC has their way, maybe. This is, of course, happening as the FBI has been activated and mobilized like never before. And, of course, now they're getting the latest help from the biggest, largest multinational banking corporations in the world, with companies including Bank of America that are secretly running through users' data and turning it over voluntarily to the FBI. Yes, Bank of America is looking at all the sales records of everyone flying in and out of Washington, D.C., their hotel rooms, what they're buying. And just because you might have made some purchases inside of D.C., you might now be interrogated by the FBI in a larger terror investigation because Bank of America decided to launch their own internal investigation that they're now sharing with the FBI. This, of course, is leading to a lot of people outraged, saying, why in the world would Bank of America try to be as proactive as to snoop through hundreds of innocent people's accounts and potentially even leading for innocent people to be interrogated because of their purchases inside of Washington, D.C.? Bank of America literally gave the government information on 211 people who they felt fit the criteria of a suspicious involvement in the January 6th events. Yes, anyone with a Bank of America credit card and debit card that was making any purchases in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia, which of course is leading to a larger call to boycott Bank of America, which is reasonable, especially if you're someone that's innocent and now you're being investigated and don't even know about it. To add to the total Orwellian police state all around us, institutions like the New York Times, that, by the way, lied to the American people about weapons of mass destruction, many race-related events, have recently called for a reality czar and now are pushing out calls that applications like Telegram and Signal that allow users to encrypt their messages so they could have some privacy in this world, which the New York Times believes is causing harm, as they just released a scathing pile of steamy crap that they're calling a news article that's really just a big propaganda puff piece, trying to somehow justify the destruction of your civil liberties. In their article that is titled, "Are Privated Messaging Apps the Next Misinformation Hotspot?" literally advocating for more censorship. And if they can control what you can say, they can control of what you can think, and now any bastion where people have free expression without being worried about expressing a wrong political ideology, that has to be taken down immediately, because according to the New York Times, privacy is a bad thing. Government deserves to know every little secret thing you're doing, saying, or even thinking about. Orwellian doesn't even go to describe the utter nonsense that's being propagated out right now. As of course, we're also finding out moments ago that it cost taxpayers nearly $500 million to deploy 26,000 National Guard troops at the U.S. Capitol during the U.S. inauguration. Yes, $500,000 was spent on police state security theater when there was absolutely no threat at all. There was a lot of fake news threats. There was a lot of made-up nonsense from mainstream media organizations that were never verified, that never had any actual evidence behind it that there was some kind of larger threat. And now we're seeing similar propaganda efforts by CNN with their latest headline, "Domestic Violence Extremism Remains a Concern for Super Bowl Security This Weekend," as literally the first thing they said in their, quote, article, the Department of Homeland Security Acting Deputy Secretary assured the public that the game and surrounding venues would be safe. And why would right-wingers go after the Super Bowl? They love football. But again, they're talking about the insurrection at the Capitol and just more utter nonsense, trying to convince you that your neighbor with a different political opinion is the big enemy here, is the new boogeyman, is the new ISIS, Al-Qaeda jihadi that wants to hurt you for some reason. And the big reality truth of it is that no, that's most likely not the case at all. And if you are somehow convinced by these propaganda merchants that people using words and speaking political opinions that are not yours are the problem in this country, you're an utter idiot with no concept of history. What's happening right now is extremely dangerous, as of course the state is empowering itself with authority that historically they always abuse. When you give government carte blanche, unaccountable powers to censor speech, to get rid of any kind of dissenting voices, to get rid of privacy, you establish yourself on a very negative, bad pathway to repeat some of the worst historical moments in our human existence. So yeah, don't. Also, I forgot to plug the one very easy way to keep this independent media organization going. Something strange is happening on YouTube. I'm seeing individuals like the Quartering, Stux and Hammer all report, along with what we've been seeing, a huge decrease in views. There's some kind of major algorithm shift or change. There's something weird happening behind the scenes that, of course, no one at YouTube is talking about. And again, we have to tell you, your support is crucially important to this independent media organization, and just one very easy way to support us, but more importantly, get out a message that can't be censored, is by wearing a t-shirt. We have a lot of them ever since we were fully demonetized. I'm wearing one right now that highlights the surveillance state. And you could only get these shirts on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. There have even been censorship efforts against these shirts. We successfully fought back against them. All of the shirts that were previously banned before, they're back. They're right now. All available on thebestpoliticalshirts.com, which I think you should definitely check out. Also, while you're there, check out our email list. Just put it in your email right here. It is one sure way, without any central controllers, without any middlemen, without any technocrats standing in the way, that we could communicate one-on-one. Sign up on the email list right here by going to thebestpoliticalshirts.com. The link is down below. Click on it right now and check out our website. So yeah, now to add to the utter confusion about our current dystopia, we literally had Time magazine come out and released this article that is titled "The Secret History of the Shadow Campaign That Saved the 2020 Election." By saved, they essentially mean there was a shadow secret campaign that didn't act publicly, had no transparency, worked in a way that they didn't want anyone to see, that got Joe Biden elected. And don't believe my interpretation of it. Look at the article itself where it says, quote, when talking about the election, they said specifically, quote, "That's why the participants want the secret history of the 2020 election told. Even though it sounds like a paranoid fever dream, a well-funded cabal of powerful people ranging across industries and ideologies working together behind the scenes to influence perceptions, change rules and laws, steer media coverage, and control the flow of information. They were not rigging the election, they were fortifying it." Yeah, why would Time magazine release this now? There's huge online tech censorship if you question the results of 2020 or believe that there was any foul play, and now Time is releasing this article, which is absolutely extremely perplexing. Now, I don't know about you, but a secret cabal working together in order to get a favorable election result doesn't really sound democratic, especially when they brag about controlling the free flow of information, which is critically important here, since of course we know that big social tech media platforms can decide the results of elections and do have major impacts on them, especially with what they decide to show you in an algorithm, in a timeline, that of course is carefully curated to give you a particular perception of the world. And for Time to release this information now, almost kind of bragging about it, should be concerning, not just for the sake of this country and future elections, but for the sake of the country right now, that's in a very dangerous place where everything should be done in our power to prevent any other violence from happening from here. And as I've been saying from the beginning of my career, violence should never be the answer. It should always be opposed. It should always be contested. It should always be talked out. But in this modern media day and age controlled by hashtags and algorithms, the conversation couldn't be getting any worse. But that's why we're still here as an independent media organization with you, amazing human beings that still allow us to be here. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you actively sharing, getting these videos out there. Again, something strange is happening. No matter what it is, no matter what happens, at least we could still communicate through email. I'm going to be releasing special videos just for people on this email list. Sign up. It's more imperative than ever. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, and this is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.